I'd like to take a moment and thank our sponsor. If you have a laser device for training and you want to take it to the next level, or if you're looking to get into using a laser device for training, check out the products at laserapp.com. LASRAPP.com. You can use code CSP2021 for 15% off the items you've selected. And thanks for checking them out. You got out basically in 2005, but you found USPSA in 2014. That's a pretty decent gap. How did you find out about the USPSA?
So I talked a little bit about it in my intro. So I was very much in the tactical defensive community at the time. So Pat Rogers, Frank Proctor, Mike Manone, kind of went to all those classes trying to learn how to essentially stay competent in my firearm skills. And one of the things I noticed in the process of trying to learn to maintain my firearm skills is that, okay, well, I can shoot a rifle, but God, I am so terrible at a pistol. I mean, it's actually kind of embarrassing when I look back on it and just how unskilled I was. So at the time, I don't know, do you remember Todd Lewis Green? He was a State Department, a DSS agent. So Todd Lewis Green used to run a forum called the Pistol Forum. So Todd Lewis Green is, unfortunately he passed away from cancer, but then Ernie Langdon is basically carrying on the torch for him. And so
That's where I know the name. Okay.
yeah, so there's a guy that I do by the name of Gabe White. So Gabe White is a USPSA. He got into USPSA and he had a range diary and he posted it up on the pistol forums. And I went and looked at it and thought, okay, Gabe White was fairly well respected. He was somebody who got into competitive shooting because he wanted to become a better concealed carrier. So he actually wanted to start up an IDPA and then realized they wouldn't allow inside the waistband holsters in IDPA, so he decided to shoot USPSA. And Gabe basically shot appendix carry before appendix carry was kind of the rage with all the rule changes we had. So he basically shot limited with his concealed carry gear with a Glock 34 in limited minor, and he was a limited master. He
Wow.
could actually, when I finally met him in person, I realized, wow, he's really good. I mean, he could basically do a 1 second draw from concealment, A zone hit at 7 yards.
Wow, nice.
Like he was legitimately good. And what Gabe did that I found very engaging was that he actually talked about how USPSA forced him to question what was efficient and what made sense as a concealed carrier. So he traditionally started off with your 3-4 o'clock carry, and then he realized shooting USPSA that wasn't particularly efficient, so he made the transition to appendix carry. And then the other part about USPSA was that the timer and the scores don't lie, right? You can come up with all these very different rationales for why you don't shoot USPSA, but the reality is that if you want to test your ability in a defensive encounter, hey, can I actually draw in a somewhat controlled environment and test my skills? USPSA gave him that feedback and those metrics that he could really evaluate, and it forced him to become more and more and more efficient till he got to the point where, as a limited M, shooting a Glock in appendix carry and minor, and he did his reloads from concealment too. So he literally
Wow.
ran his entire concealment gear, and he was so efficient and so effective at it that I looked at it and went, okay, like this guy, he gets a lot of respect from the different folks on the pistol forums. I should probably take a look at this and see what there is about it. So it was basically that link between the tactical defensive community and the competition community, and that's how I found out about it. And so I looked up the different ranges in the San Francisco Bay Area, because if you want to do anything from the holster, you basically have to do competitive shooting. It's very difficult to be able to do that at a public range. So one of the things that we do at the clubs here is that before you actually shoot your first match, we actually teach a class to basically say, hey, here's the rules of the games. We just want to make sure you know how to draw from a holster and do the various safety elements, so that your first match is not where you're trying to figure this out on the clock with all the different safety rules. And so the club I started off at the time, it's now defunct. It's a Chabot Tuesday Action Speed Club or something like that. I forget. And for all those people that were task guys, I apologize for butchering the name. But it was a great introduction, and it's one of the things that I really liked was that my introduction to USPSA was not, showing up at the range and seeing Dave Wampler or Garospi running around shooting at a million miles an hour. It was very much
Right.
more a social event. So it was one of those places where we had one range and we had to build two stages side by side, and you shot one and you shot the other and you scored. And it was a more leisurely introduction, it was a more friendly introduction, so that you got to learn the non-shooting aspects of the sport. And so once I got comfortable in that environment, to then go to a club that is a more competitive club, uh, I think that concept of having a starter club where people can gently immerse themselves into USPSA instead of jumping into the deep end of the pool. That
Yeah.
that was something that I really appreciated, and it really made it so that I could grow into USPSA and try to become more serious and be more competitive about it when I was ready to. So
Okay.
yeah, that's how I found it. I literally decided one day I want to get better at pistol shooting. I found Gabe White's training diary on the pistol forums and said, well, I'm going to go do this.
Okay. And so, what division do you shoot?
I primarily shoot production now, carry optics. When I first showed up, I literally had a olive drab Glock 19 and a Raven concealment holster, Raven concealment pouches. I went and looked up the rules, and at the time, you couldn't. I had a Vickers mag release and a Vickers slide stop, and at the rules of the time, that put me in limited. So I just showed up and said, "Hey, I'm shooting limited." So that's what I started off with, and eventually I went into production. That's where most of the competition was at the time. So I shot CZs, then I shot Tanfoglios, and I guess right now, the heat is apparently in carry optics. So I
Yeah.
finally decided that I should probably shoot with a dot.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely the fastest growing division, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, it has quite a bit of appeal. You
Yeah.
get all the bullets. The entry is relatively cheap. You have all these guns coming out now that are essentially optics ready. You have the Canic rivals, you have the Glock MOSs, you got the SIGs, the
Yeah.
SIG 20s, and you're basically able to get into the sport for what, under $1,000. So you get all the bullets. It's easier to aim with the dot, and you don't have to reload as much. So to a certain extent, it is filling a demand and a niche that people want, which is, at the end of the day, it's fun. For me personally, I liked the intellectual thinking that was required for production and single stack in terms of being able to break down a stage. And at the same time, I also understand. I also understand where the fun is in just, okay, I reload once, I have a dot, and I just shoot as fast as I can. And it has its own. It comes with its own challenges, right? We're certainly finding that in carry optics, you're approaching open level speeds. Like, you really have to be super efficient, and it makes me wish that I was about 10 years younger.
Yeah. I wish I had found this much younger because I was in my 50s when I found this game, this sport.
Well, how did you? So it's always an interesting question for me to ask. How did you find out about USPSA?
Well, I had a long hiatus. I mean, I got into my foray was rifles. I was on the Marine Corps rifle team. That's the picture up there
Nice.
in 1990, and then I did long gun training. Became a scout sniper. Did all that stuff, and got out. Had kids. Did all that. So there was a long break. Started getting back into rifle, and I forget what in the world happened, but it was like 2018. I was shooting rifle. I was driving down to North Carolina to shoot matches down there, and somehow came across, I wanted to start carrying a pistol and saw this competition stuff. So I actually contacted a club, the people who ran the matches. I'm like, hey, can I just come down and watch? And they're like, oh, yeah, come on down. So went down there one day, watched for about 10, 15 minutes. I'm like, I got to do this.
Hmm.
And that's how I found out about it. And I started buying my stuff. But I ended up having to go right into carry optics because I started to having to wear, I don't need glasses, but I use reading glasses.
Right.
because anything within arm's reach and in, I need something to kind of clear it up. And I was like, that's not going to work well with iron sights and a target anymore, you know. So that I didn't find it till 2018.
And that seems to be the common message that I hear talking to different folks about how they got into competitive shooting. It was word of mouth. It was just sort of almost finding it on accident.
Yeah, that's
you know,
what
if
I
you're
mean.
if you're not really looking for that, then it's not really something that you can easily Google and say, how do I get better at shooting a pistol or something like that. And the first thing that pops up is a USPSA video or an introduction to competitive shooting. So it's an interesting subject to to tackle. Like how do we make this not make, but how could we better promote the sport to people that listen that don't necessarily are not necessarily focused in this on a day to day process.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Because there are a lot of people that would be like me that are out there that would be interested in it, but they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
So yeah, I'm totally with it. And then so then you a year later get your RO. Now you just started the sport. What made you decide? You know what? I'm going to go be an RO.
So one of the things because our Northern California section is very mature, the idea that people should go get RO certified is promoted from a very early period. So you could be shooting for 3 to 6 months, and if sort of the old guard looks at you and says, "Hey, you might have some potential," it's actually suggested fairly quickly. Uh, So it was just one of those, hey, I think you would do really good at the RO class. We always need more guys to help RO the matches. And the thing about the Northern California section is that we have enough of a critical mass of competitive shooters there that we can pretty much run a class whenever we want to and probably fill it. It is a very, very unusual environment. Carl Schmidt, one of the range master instructors, he used to be the Northern California section coordinator, and so he's always it's always great to have him come down and teach a class of ROs. He has a lot of connections and relationships within the Northern California section, and he's a very good font of knowledge. And so we are fortunate enough that he's still, even though he moved to Oregon, he's still close enough by that if we want to have a class, it's very easy for us to get 25, 30 people in a class, because the RO certification is also something that we require people to have if they want to be able to practice at the range on their own. So,
Oh,
so
wow,
technically,
okay.
the at Richmond, the action range is close to the public. So in order for you to be able to shoot there on your own, you have to essentially be a red hat. You have to be an RO either on the public line, or shotgun skeet fields, or the action line. And so in order to be able to do that, we don't necessarily demand it, but it's very strongly encouraged that you should get your RO certification, because at the end of the day, the more knowledgeable you are on the rules, it kind of helps spread the load, so to speak, of people being able to run matches in an effective manner.
Okay. Well, that's pretty wild. Now, when we did the debate, I believe that was when you introduced yourself as a traveling RO. Um, what is your major match schedule look like?
For this year,
Yeah, we'll go this year.
so for this year, let's see, we had the Roadrunner match that I helped out Greg Vaughn with in Fresno. That was a couple weeks ago. 2 weekends from now, I'll be in Colorado State for the Bighorn match. So that's a match
Okay.
that I started helping them with that match when they first started to back up under Price McDonald, and I've just sort of stayed with that. Then there's the Dragons Cup match down in Texas in May. So Marco Davis, the Team Motley guys, Billy Dotson, that they were able to run that match for the first time last year, and I really wanted to help out Billy with that match. I know they're doing great things down there. Just wasn't able to because it was spring break, and my youngest said, you need to spend time with me. So I said, yes, I will spend time with you. Then after that, the match schedule is kind of clear until about September, where I'll be going to Utah State, and then I think Carry Optics Nationals. And
So is Utah State in August or September?
Utah State is traditionally Labor Day weekend.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So that's like the week before Carry Optics Nationals then.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot. September is going to be pretty wild because I'll be at Utah State, then I'll go to Carry Optics Nationals, and then 2 weeks after that, I'll be at Area 4. But Area 4, at least for now, I'm going as a dirty competitor, not as staff.
Oh, so it's only going to be a one-day match for you.
Yes. So I'll be out there with my friend John Bautista and Brian Levy and a couple of the other Texas guys, Dave Blanton, who runs the Humble Marksman podcast. And we're trying to figure out what our theme will be. Last year, Dave Blanton decided to dress himself up as the Ultimate Warrior. So I think this year, well, we may all dress up in our best Lucha Libre costumes and try to have as much fun as possible.
Oh, Leo's grabbing something.
Oh,
there you go. That's
right.
funny.
If you need to borrow it, it's available. Just know I've worn it to bed before.
That's okay. That means I'll have the magic. I'll have the magic.
Your spirit. Yes,
that's right.
Your eagle powers.
It helped Max Michelle. I mean,
Oh, nice.
It's true. I get
Really?
it.
yeah, see?
Not the mask. Just to be very
Oh.
clear, the mask was not. It was. Let's clarify the story. On the off chance that Mr. Michelle is listening to this, he did not wear my mask. I touched it. We dapped, and he won nationals. So you're welcome.
Nice.
After trailing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
He was trailing at the time they did the fist bump. Then after the fist bump, he overtook everybody.
So
I would like to point out that.
No,
go ahead. Yeah,
So it
no,
was
the best
absolutely-
part
it
of
was
that
actually
story
the
was
Lucha
it was no, yeah, it wasn't this. It was because he read the back of my shirt. The whole point, I went up there to be like, hey, you're cool. I think you're cool. And you should listen to the thing and get him a dap. But what I said was, hey, you're really cool. Nice to meet you. Good luck. And then I left. And I got back to Dave and I said, hey, Dave, I totally forgot to tell him what the name of our podcast was. And he's like, no, it's cool. You're wearing an orange shirt. He probably read it on the way out and was like, we're never listening to that weird guy ever again. So, but you're welcome because I'm the reason he won. But if you need this, let me know. I can send it to you.
Oh no, the Lucha Libre mask, yes.
Yeah. Nacho
Libre.
Yeah, that's basically my life. It's a biopic.
That was a good movie.
Yeah, I know. And they got Jack Black to play me. So, it's because of the hair.
Nice.
But yeah. So if you need it, just we'll talk about it. A nominal fee of a cool T-shirt, you can borrow it.
For sure.
I'm easy.
What
So-
about 1,000 primers?
Huggy, you're welcome.
That's the equivalent of $1 million these days.
Yeah,
Oh.
and we can share some toast.
Send
Go to my
it.
chambers and have some toast.
Send it.
Send it.
So that's kind of it for this year. Certainly, the pandemic and finances have been a little bit more challenging over the last couple of years, and with the price of gas and everything else, it's a legitimate concern. I think that we would have in the competitive shooting environment is, at what point do we start seeing fewer of the more casual shooters, so to speak, showing up? Because you do have to kind of make a choice at some point.
Yeah, I mean, you're always probably going to get your super squad, but beyond that, there's going to be some trickle down there because of the cost of everything. So,
Yep.
Yeah, and not everybody can be sponsored. So,
right,
yeah.
it's a lot of out of pocket costs,
that's
and that
a lot
goes
of
back
out-of-pocket
to
stuff for companies. So,
that's where if you're an RO, CRO, it pays dividends because now at least some of your costs are covered for the match. You know, you're not paying the match fee, and they're going to cover your lodging and that type of stuff. Whereas the casual shooter, like me, who's going in September,
Yep.
everything's out of pocket for me.
You planning on driving down there?
I am going to drive down there. Yeah.
How long's the drive from Northern Virginia?
It's like 10 hours, 10, 11 hours.
Okay, it's not terrible.
So it depends on how much caffeine I have. Could be 9. So,
Okay then.
I mean, I've made it to almost Florida in about 10 hours. I mean, I'm Miami in 10 hours. So,
Oh wow,
yeah.
wow, that's definitely a cannonball run stuff right there.
I've driven straight through from where I am to Houston, which is 1,800 miles in 21 hours nonstop. I only stopped to pee and fuel up. So mainly fuel up and pee while I was fueling up.
Right.
So I'm not, driving is not foreign to me. So now, how crazy do you think it's going to be? I think it's awesome that Carry Optics is standalone. We don't need to get into, how many stages we think would be better, but I think it's awesome that it's a standalone and that it's about 5 weeks before the Big Four nationals. I'm hoping. How crazy do you think it would be if Christian Seiler showed up as well to shoot Carry Optics Nationals with everybody else who's probably going to be there? This could be more stacked than last year.
I would not be surprised. It would actually be very interesting to see Christian show up and shoot Carry Optics Nationals. I mean, I think based on some of the Instagram stuff I've seen, that's certainly something he's considering.
Yeah.
So
That's what I'm thinking.
That would be very interesting to see, actually. But then, there's always that question of well, we, to a certain extent, it's a little selfish. We do want to see the very best in the sport shoot as many divisions as possible. I think certainly there is this recognition that, excellence is excellence regardless of the platform that you use. And then there's also something to be said of having them devote themselves to a particular platform and, demonstrate excellence in that. So, but that being said, it's going to draw numbers. I mean, Christian has, been an open guy. He did shoot limited 10 nationals last year, if I remember correctly. But for him to show up with Carry Optics and a dot and, minor and no comp, it would certainly be an intriguing storyline if he were to show up.
For sure. Absolutely. I mean, and I'm hearing Jacob's probably going to be there. So it could very well eclipse last year, which I thought was pretty magnanimous. So I'm excited.
Oh, someone else is excited too.
I love that word. I love that word, magnanimous.
That's what happens when you have a house full of great dames.
Yeah, all I'm saying is Dave's going to be there, so it's already going to be exciting. I mean,
this is true.
Does anybody else really need to eat up?
Well, it'll be great. All he's got to do is get that mask from you.
That's easy. I can drive that. I mean, I'll even mail that. I'll just bring it to work one day, and he'll be like, "Hey, thanks."
Send it. Send it as 1,000 primers. Send it.
That's a idea.
Well, to be fair, I did say 1,000 primers. I didn't say what condition they would be in.
Oh.
That just
It's not a little
They would be.
I like one of those chalk candy sweet tarts crushed in them. You'd like, here you go. Here's your primers.
No. If it was 1,000 primers, it would be 1,000 fucking primers.
Oh, that's funny.
That'd be a good prank. I won't say that.
It would be.
That would be.
I'm going to send him a mask, and he's going to win. He's going to be like, oh my gosh, there's real power in that mask. Mask and an eagle egg. He'll be good to go.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, talking about the ROing stuff, you don't have to, I'm not asking for names, obviously, but are there certain competitors you look forward to ROing and then others that make you cringe a little bit?
No, I don't have a preference. I mean, the thing I like the most about ROing is that it's an opportunity for me to see everybody that shoots the match. It's the opportunity to basically give them the best opportunity to perform on that stage. No distractions, no nothing, as long as there's no issues with the stage. And so every competitor that comes through, I love basically seeing all of them, even the ones. I guess I've never really had a competitor come through where I go, oh, okay, like hang on. It's something that I found that when you're fair, you're professional, and you take the extra 5-10 seconds to explain a particular scoring call or why this procedure is being assessed, and you do it in a professional manner, you do it in a mature manner. And at the end of the day, the ROs, we all started as competitors. So being able to keep that in mind, thinking, okay, if I was a competitor, how would I want to be treated in this particular situation? And if you kind of use that as the golden rule, it generally works out, more often than not.
Okay. What's your best RO story you got? And for example, like last year at Area 7, the guy who stumbled over and looked like he went unconscious but kept his pistol pointing downrange. That's a story I would love to talk to that RO. Like, what was running through your mind when that dude did that? Do you have any good RO stories?
Well, I actually do have one, and for the
Okay.
people that are involved in this story, names are changed to protect the innocent. So it is actually a
I
good
like it.
story. So we're at the Roadrunner match this past weekend, and we had a guy who was shooting PCC. So he has a malfunction, and best as we can tell, the bullet was a little bit too long, so it was actually in the lands. Well, he goes through his standard tap rack bang, so he rips out the old bag, puts in the new mag, racks the bolt, but apparently he had a forward assist on that PCC. So, of course, when he racks the bolt, the bullet's left in the lands, gets pulled away from the case. You see the case eject, and the bolt goes in there, and it obviously stops. Well, he was able to get the bolt to go into battery.
Ooh.
So now we've got bullet, like the projectile, and a live round right behind it.
Oh,
and
it's probably compressed into the cylinder or into the casing.
Oh yeah, no, and it was in battery, so bang.
Yeah.
Obviously, fortunately for him, it just blew the mag out because there was so little room. It basically moved the projectile a couple of feet into the barrel, and then it just blew the living tar out of the other round. So rack jam, boom, drops. My timer RO kind of flinches. So it turned out she had some frag that hit in her hand. No big deal. It wasn't at that time, and I'm the tablet RO, and of course the natural inclination when something blows up in your hand is I need to get this thing out of my hands. So he just tosses the PCC on the ground, and at that point it's like, okay, stop. All right, everybody's okay. So I get up there. My other offside RO, we had 3 ROs at the time, so I look up and I turn it over and I see that the bolt is slightly out of battery. So try to extract it. Obviously isn't going to come out, so I mortar it and I see the round fly out and go, okay, let's go ahead and get that. Then we're able to put the chamber flag in, and then I stand up. He picks up the round. I look at it, and there's a hole about the size of my fingernail in the base of the case because the energy really only had 2 places to go. A little bit forward and a little bit back. And we actually initially thought that the round was upside down because the round nose was completely flattened. So there was just enough kinetic energy to send the projectile forward. So we ended up knocking the squib out later. So, but here's the entertaining part of it. So I'm sitting around, I'm holding this rifle, and it's cleared, and we're like, okay, now what do we do? The range master, we've already called the range master. He was just a couple stages down, and I turn around. And so this guy basically sees a little pinprick of blood on his bicep. And I turn around, he looks at it and goes, I'm bleeding, I need a tourniquet. And I look at him and go, you don't need a tourniquet right now, you'll be fine. And he says again, I need a tourniquet. Okay, like it was a relatively newer shooter, and I totally get it. You know, it was something that was outside of what he was expecting, and you know, when you're relatively new, you're almost immediately thinking worst case scenario, right? So he's not totally into shock, but he's very singular focused on, I see blood, and he's thinking worst case scenario. So
yes.
We turn around and go, hey, you know, we need medical attention over here, you know. And we had somebody on the squad who used to work for CAL FIRE, so he had some emergency medical knowledge. We had someone else who was an ER nurse, was in the military beforehand. So, of course, they're all dragging him off over there while I get this. And, you know, the range master comes up, and I hand him the bullet, and we look at it, and we're sort of talking about what happens. We're talking about what happens. And then we get to the very end, and I realize, oh, yeah, I guess he did drop his gun. He's probably DQ'd. Yeah, he's DQ'd. Because, I mean, literally, bang, just threw the gun on the ground. So, okay, fine, he's DQ'd. So we go through that whole particular process. But then the story gets better, right? So this guy thinks, you know, he needs a tourniquet. So everybody's like, no, you're fine. They you know, literally, it was a pinprick of blood, right? You would get more blood from a needle, like drawing blood. So then apparently the guy lifts his shirt up, turns around and goes, hey, can anybody see if I have a through and through? Because, I mean, no, he is literally going like worst case scenario, something blew up in my hand. And you know, look, I get it. You know, he's very singular focused on what the potential would be. But, you know, you hear the story afterwards and you're like, dude, if you had a through and through, you would not be standing there, right? If you had a through and through, I looked over and I see blood on your jersey, I'd be like, yes, forget about this rifle right now. We're taking care of you. The rifle can wait until later. So, you know, he goes through this whole process of getting checked, and they finally, you know, bandage up his bicep. He has a little bit of bleeding on his knee, but again, you know, like a skinned knee. And then he, you know, we try to get him calmed down. He's sort of decompressing and processing what happened. And then, you know, he decides he should go to the ER. So they go to the ER, and then they take the pictures afterwards. I mean, literally, you know, I think I've gotten more frag thrown in my face from a steel challenge match. So, but again, it's you know, to go back to what we talked about with how people react, you know, actually under fire when things are actually happening. It's very interesting to see how, you know, in his mind, he thought something blew up in my hand. I felt something hit my body. And because, you know, he doesn't know what to expect, he's immediately going to the worst case scenario. So, yeah. So I guess, you know, when everybody saw me the next day, they were like, hey, Yee-min, I'm bleeding. I need a tourniquet. And I'm like, oh.
Too soon, bro. Too soon.
So that's probably one of the more interesting stories that I've had
and fresh too.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people fall down. You know, I've had people you know, blow up guns before. It's you know, the interesting thing about ROing is that it's very experience driven. So there's a lot of things you could read in the rule book that make it seem like, oh, if I know this, I know everything, and then you kind of have to experience it. It's like hearing a squib. You know, the first time you hear a squib, you know exactly what it sounds like for the rest of your time. But until you hear a squib, you just go, wait, what was that? No, that was a squib. So that was probably the most hilarious story.
Well, and in a way, I don't blame him because, I mean, you know, JFK got hit with a bullet that did a whole bunch of different things. So, you know, hitting the bicep, ricochet down, get you in the kneecap, you know, could have been another magic bullet.
He couldn't have asked for a tourniquet because half of his brain was on the back end of the trunk.
Well, that was a different magic bullet than this one. Yeah. But, you know, this, because pistol, rifle, they're not the same.
Just say for future reference, this is from 3 paramedics. Next time he asks for a tourniquet, just put it on, and you crank that sucker all the way. He'll never ask for a tourniquet again. And technically, I just went through this class. Technically, you're supposed to put on a second one. So you ask for one, right, bro, you get 2.
Yeah. Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what they're starting to teach.
Yep.
Yeah.
You get 1, you're supposed to get 2. Put them bad boys on and just keep cranking, and he'll be like, I'm good. No, I'm good.
No, you're not.
Wow.
Yeah. Nope. You still need another twist.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
I mean, like
I
I
need
said, I get it, ish. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, again, I mean,
That's all.
when you look at it from the perspective of, I don't know, it. So you guys are all paramedics, so you're familiar with how people respond under stress, right? And so, as much as I hate to say it, I'm probably in that category of people think I am not a psychopath, but not normal. Things will happen, and I'll just kind of go, okay, well, that isn't that serious, right? I mean, I've had, even when I got shot, I mean, like, the first response out of my mouth was, well, close the door. If we don't see the rounds, we're okay. And you sort of have that sort of response, and you'll have people that they get that and they immediately go into like worst case scenario. So, right. I empathize with how he felt because something unexpected happened and, he kind of went worst case scenario. And for me, I was just like, dude, I barely.
You're definitely a better man than me. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't know if I'd have been that nice.
No, Huggy would have thrown him on his back, run him to the whatever evac vehicle, been like, bam, let's go, and Huggy would have saved the crap out of that dude.
Oh, so it would have been like saving Forrest Gump, right? He'd just be running into the jungle and just keep pulling people out.
100%.
I'd be running.
I'd be running. He's done stuff like that to me. And Dave would be in his car, be like, "You need to run faster."
Yeah. Leo can tell you. Ask him about a trash can.
Ooh, trash can. Oh,
I've been saved into a trash can by that man. Trust me, he'll save you.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How long did it take your ribs to recover?
It was about 3 weeks.
God, that reminds me. The first time we had to learn how to do fireman carries in the Marine Corps. So I think at the time I was like 5'9", and they put me with the biggest dude in the platoon, like 6'7", 280 pounds, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what I spent all week doing, was just carrying people up and down stairs. Yeah, it's not fun. I had to drag Huggy. That was when we got stationed on the truck together. That was the test. Huggy was the biggest guy on the ladder truck. You had to drag him across the parking lot because if you couldn't save Huggy, you weren't allowed to be on the unit.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Just with the regular underarm drag, or?
Oh no, like this is in full gear.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know if you could tell. Huggy's not light.
Yes, I am.
I will have to take your word for that.
But yeah, he'll save you. He'll save you.
All right. Yeah. He'll save the ever-loving Jesus.
But next time, 2 tourniquets.
2 tourniquets. Got it.
Yeah.
2.
Yeah. So yeah, that's probably the funniest story I can think of. Just, I need a tourniquet. No, you don't.
That's a pretty good one.
Okay.
I'm glad he's okay.
No,
end of the day, I'm glad he's okay.
Yes, I'm glad he's fine.
Yeah.
But that's people are going to be talking about that for a long time.
Yes, and when I see you next time, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to get down on one knee and I'm going to start crying. I'm like, please call my mother.
Okay. I'm going to trademark this right now. T-shirt, but instead of an American flag on it, you put a tourniquet. That way you always have a tourniquet. TM. Wow. I'm trademarking that right now.
That's some good thinking right
there. This is a verbal contract between the 4 of us.
Oh, it's all you.
Yeah. I'm going to sell that joker.
So what do you do now professionally, if you don't mind me asking, Yee-min?
Well, I was working as a program project manager. I did some technical training, and then my kids were born. So my oldest is on the spectrum, and he has a rare genetic disorder. And so I I chose at the time to basically be a stay-at-home parent, and that is pretty much what I do these days. Stay-at-home parent and USPSA, and that's pretty much it.
Okay. I see where your Marine Corps background and leadership would help in your running for USPSA president. But what is actually motivating you to do that?
It's a really good question. A fair amount of it just comes from the discussions I've had with competitors across the United States, as staff and as competitors, literally just talking about, what we love about the sport and the things that we feel that could be improved upon. And, when you, Dave, when they talk about being in the Marine Corps, you end up getting groomed for greater positions. They sort of tell you, like, when you're a Lance Corporal, you want to learn the billet above you, so that in case that happens, you're able to take charge in the appropriate position. And there was certainly an aspect to that of thinking, I've served competitors as a regular RO, as a chief range officer, matches as a range master, and just there is a little bit of civic feeling of, I really just want to serve all of the members and bring, the knowledge and experiences and the love of shooting and the societal aspect that we sort of talk about, but we really don't talk about that, and just bring us all together to make the sport, better better for the future, to be able to sustain that. USPSA has done, a great many things for me. It's certainly made me a much better pistol shooter. It's given me the opportunity to meet folks from all across the spectrum, all walks of life in terms of their backgrounds. I met my current girlfriend through USPSA working in matches, and she lives all the way in Florida. Like, there's, you can't really make this stuff up. It's almost the same way of trying to explain to people what it's like in the military. The reality is almost stranger than fiction. And because USPSA has done so much for me personally, as an individual, I just feel that it's important to give back to the sport, to give back in a way that impacts the clubs and impacts the members in a positive way.
Okay. Pretty interesting. Now, is there any concern, and I don't mean to get too personal, is there any concern that might take too much, with the way they've come out with the newest version of the USPSA president and all the travel time that it seems like there's going to be involved? Is there any concern that might take too much time from your, did you say it was your son who has the genetic disorder?
Well, the nice thing is that, my wife and I my ex-wife and I, we had a non-adversarial divorce. So we were actually quite adult about it in terms of balancing the responsibilities. So generally during the week, I manage most of his hospital visits and so on and so forth. And then on the weekends, certainly at some point, it's like anything else, you basically address it and deal with it as best you can. It's all the joys of adulting. So.
Right. Okay. Well, good for you for having that. Mine didn't turn out that way. So my divorce is a little different.
Oh,
it's all good.
Well, I had a Marine that was attached to me from Camp Lejeune, and he found out about his divorce over satellite phone. That was not awesome.
I got that beat.
When
here you go. Here's a story for you. Here's a Marine Corps story for you. When I left Second Recon Battalion, right before they were literally deploying to go to Desert Storm. I was a team leader.
Right.
I had gotten orders. I had re-enlisted. I had gotten orders to come up to Quantico to be a scout sniper instructor. So I went up and I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to go to the desert from Quantico in that capacity. I never went anywhere. I just trained reservists. However, There were only a couple of us left when the unit shipped out. And one of those guys was EASing. He was a sergeant. For his wife's Christmas present, he got a big box. And then a smaller box inside that, smaller box inside that, smaller box inside that. In that smallest box were divorce papers. That's probably the most screwed up way I've ever heard of to give some or notify someone that they were getting divorced. Christmas Day, opening up that present.
Wow, that's pretty good. I mean,
That's
my
a shot in the jingle bells right there.
Well, I mean, I had a maintenance chief, and so he was married and he was in Afghanistan. I remember him posting about, hey, I'm looking forward to coming back. I love my wife, blah, blah, blah. Comes back to an empty house, completely stripped, because apparently she was having relations with a Navy corpsman who NCIS was investigating for drugs. So, to be perfectly honest, man, I feel like we could just make a series about best military divorces.
Yeah.
Because they're,
for sure.
Again, you're like, wait, what? Huh? Yes.
And you could lump that all into just deployment stories, because I've got a million more, whether, things going on at the house while you're deployed and what happens when you come back. So, yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. That was its own soap opera.
Oh, yes. And the
that's the how are you pregnant right now? I've been gone for a year.
Yeah.
Oh, no. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Every year there will be new stories. Every year, new stories. Oh, wow. Wow. There's no way you could top this. Oh, yes, you did.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I had a question earlier. Again, what was the name of the gentleman who was the CrossFit
I thought you
president?
were talking chlamydia.
Oh.
No, there will be no board punching on this show, please. Thank you.
But my thought was, imagine that guy who you said the CrossFit president was, who would come out and chew with you guys. I can imagine what would be running through his mind is like, wow, imagine all the CrossFit things I could do in make people do in a USPSA match.
No, actually not. I mean, so Dave Castro I actually knew him when he was still in Southern California, before he got out of, I believe, the Navy SEALs at the time. Again, don't quote me if I'm wrong, Dave. I'm really sorry if I'm getting this information incorrect. But he was already familiar with competitive shooting. And so it was actually very interesting having discussions with him, once he became president of CrossFit, just talking about the challenges of, promoting CrossFit as well as, as well as USPSA. It's very interesting discussions on, how do you market USPSA to, to the general audience that, you would think that CrossFit people would be somewhat interested, but there's definitely a stigma attached with firearms in general that, it was a challenge for him as well.
Gotcha.
But yeah, he never really thought about it. I mean, we talk every once in a while, and it was very general based questions. Dave has always been a great Second Amendment supporter. You kind of see on Instagram that he kind of talks about, but he's very much a supporter of CrossFit and kind of what that was while he was president. So he's a great dude.
All right, cool. Well, that's what I have. Huggy, you have anything?
No. All I know is that next time I see you, I'm going to get down on one knee and I'm going to have you call my mother. I'm going to do like, was it back in the day, was it Sanford and Son? I'm like, I'm coming. I lied.
Oh, God, that was such a great show.
Yeah. Yeah, it was back in the day. But I have nothing else.
Okay.
All I want to say is that it was great talking to you again. Always good seeing you.
Absolutely.
No, always a pleasure. I'm always happy to come out and talk with you guys.
Well, unfortunately, Leo's computer did an auto restart, so he's gonna be out. It looks like for the end of the show.
Computer needs a tourniquet.
Yeah, his computer needs a tourniquet. He should have put the
There you
Lucha
go.
Libre. He should have
That's
put
right.
the Lucha Libre mask on there.
There you go. All right. Well, Yee-min, thank you for coming on. This is awesome. It was a great conversation. It was good to get to know you.
All right. No, as likewise. Hope you guys are staying safe out there on the East Coast, and I'll just remember to bring lots of tourniquets when I see you next.
There you go.
There you go.
We'll see you at Nationals.
Sounds good.
I'd like to take a moment and thank our sponsor. If you have a laser device for training and you want to take it to the next level, or if you're looking to get into using a laser device for training, check out the products at laserapp.com. LASRAPP.com. You can use code CSP2021 for 15% off the items you've selected. And thanks for checking them out.